what am I supposed to do? How can I, I mean, the thing goes on and on and on, and there doesn't seem to be an end. And this seems to be another page in that with possible variances, with a site-specific study, and I just kind of scratch my head. What?
Two things, one of which is I agree with you, and we've received a similar complaints or concerns over the years that we are inconsistent, and the approach that we've been taking is inconsistent. A lot of the policy and the guidelines attempt to apply some consistency, so you know the rules, but the policy is still draft. Your particular water right, and I don't know the details of it, but the same note is we're attempting to apply the essentially the guidance we have and the policies we have internally now. We're not changing it just based on a potential for the policy to modify in the future. All of these projects have been assigned to staff and some level of supervision. We're proceeding with these independent of the adoption of the policy. That we haven't stopped because the policy is pending. But secondly is there are a number of things that have to be satisfied in the process, one of which is protest resolution. Many of these projects are, and it's rare that they're not protested, either by the Department of Fish and Game or downstream water users or others. And frankly, we've had some problems trying to resolve the environmental issues and those concerns of the other protestants that may be involved in vested rights or other water rights. So I don't know the details of yours. This is a common complaint, and frankly, I don't have a real good answer for you.
Well, Mr. Herr, we've already had public hearing, and the property's been held open for people to, look at it and all. That was years ago, and still nothing.
Again, like I said, I don't know the details of it.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Kahn, followed by Richard Rhodes.
Hi, I'm Deborah Kahn. I'm the owner of Navarro Vineyards in the Anderson Valley. I have been dealing with Steve for years. I first applied for a water right in 1974. I filled out the application on my kitchen table.
Over a glass of good wine, I hope.
After a glass of wine. After using the application for 10 years, someone came out, we looked at my notes. I didn't have a computer, I had a spreadsheet then. I got, my license for this particular pond. In subsequent years, when I've tried to make an application, I have had to have engineers, I've had to have attorneys, and I, like Mr. Schoeneman, has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for some very, very small ponds. I guess to pose it as a question, do you expect small farmers to have to use expensive legal help to get a pond? And if that is the case, don't you think you're giving large corporate agriculture a big advantage over a small farmer? That's my first question. My second question is, it seems to me that you picked Mendocino County for the first application of this policy because we're small fish to fry. That if you went into an area like San Francisco or Los Angeles, that you would have much more people with many more resources to use to deal with the situation.
A couple of things, and it's good to see Ms. Connie. I haven't seen her for a number of years, but as she mentioned, I've been actually at this for quite a while, and granted, historically, the process was much simpler. But the onset of additional development and demands on these watersheds has increased the dilemma that we're in, trying to figure out how to dole this water right out adequately and with reasonable protection to the public trust. Historically, was the staff of the division did the evaluations and the environmental and documents and produced them and saved the taxpayer a lot of money in a way, but we can't do that anymore. As she mentioned, and I believe and she had consultants in the permits that we did issue, not nearly to the extent involved that they are today. So costs have gone up, but also the demands on these watersheds have increased. Does it favor the large user? No. large user in some cases. If they're using multiple small reservoirs, their costs are significant as well. Much more involved, and they may have also, depending on the location, the same difficulties the little guy has. Did we pick on Mendocino County or these 5 county areas? In some respects we did, because that's the majority of our pending water rights. But again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a very noted case in which we did pick on the big guys, and we took on, at the requirements of the legal community, the state Supreme Court required us to go back and evaluate the diversion use of water out of the Mono Basin, which resulted in a 15% reduction in the city of Los Angeles' water supply. That was to provide in-stream flow requirements for 5 streams in the Mono Basin. So no, we don't necessarily avoid the issues. And currently we're in the midst of major concerns in the Delta, in which we're reducing the pumping and the export of water out of the Delta. The same issues on a much grander scale. So this is not just focused on the little guy. The policy helps us in these 5 counties. Similar measures or more advanced studies and requirements are going on elsewhere in the state.
Thank you. Richard Rhodes, followed by Bob Kiefer.
My name is Richard Rhodes. I'm a farmer in Redwood Valley, and I've only been in Mendocino County for about 20 years, and so I really don't know the answer to this question, and it puzzles me. However, and there was a Sunday, April 20th newspaper article in the Ukiah Journal. It says something black bass for Russian River, and it goes on about a gentleman who is finally pleased that the Russian River will flow all year long. So my first question is, historically, did Russian River have water in it throughout the entire year? And then what you're doing, is it a proper environmental way to have these fish recover? As this gentleman here 100 years ago says that the river was dry. That's one question, and I'll sit down and take the answer, but I wanted to make a request to the Board of Supervisors, and that the last 20 or 30 nights I've been frost protecting. I've been using a lot of water, all right, and that water is going directly back into the Russian River right now in time of kind of drought, so it's probably very beneficial for the water to go into the river right now. It probably helps the fish out quite a bit. However, I would like to request the Board of Supervisors to ask for additional time to postpone the policy deadline that's been set, and also to ask the board to postpone any vote that they would have on the policy. The reason being my last 30 days of frost protection personally, and also that the more I read about this, the more I'm convinced that maybe not by design, perhaps by design, the key word being south. You know, why are we looking at these rivers? Because we all run south. All the water is running south. All the benefit is going south, and all of the benefit, the water that is being held by the people in the south is not being regulated by this bill. So I am really questioning that, and I would pray that the board takes a very serious and stern writes a very serious and stern letter to the water board, asking them to postpone this until we get a better handle on it, and to know that I believe that the benefit is to the Santa Rosa water. And I think if I delve into this further, I think more of that will come out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
And actually, this kind of goes to a couple of questions that the chairman asked earlier, one of which was, there's going to be additional time, ask the State Water Board to take additional time or have additional proceedings, and I will mention that the board has taken that into consideration. We've received several pieces of correspondence, and we've had ongoing discussions with various legislators over the same issue. It's the board's decision. I can't speak for them, but it's under consideration. Secondly, you mentioned the main stem of the Russian River, and your comments was that we left Lake Mendocino and Lake Sonoma out of the process. Yes, we did, but they're not out of the water rights process. In fact, they're under much more heavy regulation